Okay, I just wanted to talk about 3 things I've noticed in the Roblox job roleplay community that have disturbed me, and I feel like they need to be addressed. Some of these things may dive into potential allegations, so keep in mind some of the things discussed are alleged. As a disclaimer, do not go on a witch hunt trying to find exactly what I'm referring towards, or do not start sending hate towards those involved, or any community for that matter. These are just my observations and my perspective and my opinions. I'm going to try my best to keep everything vague and names hidden and so on and so forth to help prevent this. And now, once again, this doesn't apply to all Roblox job groups, communities, whatever. Some are awesome. However, it's also important to be made aware of these things going on. Some of these topics discussed may be disturbing. If you have concerns about NSFW and pedophilia being discussed, don't watch this video. It's a little vague, but if you're triggered by that, I wouldn't recommend it. And that being said, take this all with a grain of salt and let's begin. Now, why would someone want to join a community like this in Roblox? Especially if I have to make a video like this, why even try? Unfortunately, these big issues are caused by a small handful of rotten apples in the bunch. A lot of people, including myself, join these groups to meet new people, make friends, and have fun pretending to do jobs that otherwise you may not be able to do in real life. Some people may say you can do these things in other games without all the group issues, and I agree. However, many people, including myself, flock to these types of groups for the realism, which can be a subject I plan on exploring in another video in the future. Now, also, there's a clear lack of boundaries, a lack of transparency, and a lack of logical adults available in these groupthink growing communities. Like these groups are infested with groupthink in the air, and if you aren't aware of what groupthink is, groupthink can be described as when a group makes a decision or comes to an agreement about something without thinking logically. Logically? I don't know, either or. Anyways, back to the main point of these videos, which, as you may observe, no, back to the main point of this video, not these videos, this video, which, as you may observe, all wouldn't or shouldn't exist in a normal community. Groupthink is thick in the air of these groups, and probably what I consider a leading cause to how these 3 factors persist in many communities. Now, there's many more, however, just for the sake of time today, we're just going over 3. Let's start with age. As Roblox is a platform meant for all ages, a lot of these communities either try to adapt to this or close off their community, all of which have kind of valid reasons, I suppose. Some are to expand their player base to more players, while others to maintain a level of maturity they want in their roleplays. Of course, maturity that should be abiding to Roblox TOS. Sometimes it's just to make sure you can access things like Discord to communicate, like certain staff rules or whatever. Okay, but in popular opinion, but some people, specifically minors, should not be allowed to moderate in these groups. They may be exposed to things at a younger age, even if they are 13 plus, that otherwise shouldn't be shown or exposed to them. When I was younger, when I was younger, I was a moderator in one of these groups and exposed to a toxic work I can't. Okay, when I was younger, I was a moderator in one of these groups and exposed to a toxic work environment and desensitized to some pretty graphic stuff. For example, an adult called all of us moderators into a call and berated one of us for not knowing a specific hate group uniform in front of everyone in our team. That being said, I'm still trying to recover from those things and, be less desensitized and realize a lot of that stuff isn't normal and shouldn't be, processed like a machine. I was just a kid trying to have fun and be in a community. Okay. Some people may have a stance that it's okay if they're 13 plus, they'll encounter it anyways. Actions have consequences and you chose to be in this job. And no, absolutely not. It shouldn't have been in reach anyways. One could say lack of parental supervision, but also when there's a good amount of these communities that have adults as well as minors, you would think the adults would have better judgment. In many of the cases I've been, it might have been a staffing issue that they have made these groups allow minors to work as moderators. But as we reflect on the recent Mr. Beast issue discussing something quite similar, we got to remember minors can't sign contracts and shouldn't be treated maturely even if they act mature. NSFW is not safe for work, not safe for kids. Just because they are aware about it doesn't mean or shouldn't mean we should even discuss it in the first place, let alone in a supposed minor-friendly server. Besides age being an issue, like kind of talked over about earlier, moderation in these groups itself have plenty of issues on their own. From what I've encountered, a good reason to why these groups may have their own moderation outside of Roblox's system is for quicker responses to more severe offenses. I'm not going to mention those because that's already a lot, heavy stuff. But I mean, also, we're all human, and some of these things are just kind of confusing to me, too, when I was a moderator. There are some groups that would make special exceptions to rules because the rule breaker in question was a moderator or even an owner. And nobody below the owners would feel comfortable sharing that it made them uncomfortable or that shouldn't have been discussed, especially even if they seem to try to do that. Usually the Google form might gather an email that's player and it low-key would indicate who it's from. So even if they say it's anonymous, it's not really anonymous. Defeats the whole point of those surveys. Yeah. And some of these rules that were applied would be like kind of as simple as no NSFW clothing in a game, but other times NSFW might have been mentioned in staff chats between minors and adults. None of that is okay and should be okay, especially if it's like supposed to be kid friendly. Let's keep it safe, y'all. But one time, a co-owner of a group I was in mentioned in a staff meeting under a respect for coworkers section, and I quote, "Minors don't be aggressive to adults, vice versa." Oh, I phrased that wrong. Okay, it's in the picture. Do you see it? Minors don't be NSFW to adults, vice versa. I typed that wrong. Whoop, whoop. How about nobody continues discussions on NSFW in the first place and a moderator steps in instead of continuing it, or the co-owner who's hired as like a friend, realizes, hey, I shouldn't be talking about NSFW in front of the minor, even if she is a high rank. It's so interesting to me that they mentioned also reporting it right under this image because sometimes they forget the power dynamic and fear of reporting a coworker in a higher rank position than us lower ranks would sometimes face. Because when it comes to this power dynamic, these people really control who's getting promoted and who's not. Honestly, we don't know what's going on in like closed doors because some of these groups have the worst transparency. They won't tell you how many hours you need to work in the game to get a rank up. Like that's a topic for another video, but oh well. And like I've even seen attempts where people will try to report a high rank, and it turns out there's nothing that can be done, or like even an owner has said, oh, nothing can be done about it. And we just feel very helpless. And like the community that we went to for a safe place to meet other people is no longer a safe place. Another thing is that there's bias in the community. Bias can be seen through favoritism and promotion of certain individuals over others due to connections rather than KSAs or knowledge, skills, and abilities. In some smaller groups I've worked at, owners may appoint their friends as high ranks due to the low amounts of staff available. However, they can never really phase them out because they're friends or hire more people over time who have spent more time on the game, are well experienced due to past involvement in other groups, and are professional enough because of their bias. Now, look, I get it's Roblox, and it's so painfully obvious and upsetting. Look, I get it's Roblox, but it's so painfully obvious and upsetting to be told off in a staff announcements channel by someone who rarely steps foot into their own game and interacts with the community. It's so out of touch, and sometimes these people are so passive-aggressive because they never had someone tell them off or that they lack experience to properly respond to questions or suggestions because they got their job handed to them. These types of actions ultimately contribute to the death of a community. At the end of the day, nobody wants to roleplay with or someone or who doesn't seem to care or respect others. Nobody wants to interact with a predator or be groomed, and nobody wants to be associated with a game that is a cash grab with little care to what the community wants. All these things, from my perspective, usually intermingle with the cause of mass resignations, players going dormant in a community, and hostility in a community. I believe what best can solve this is genuine accountability, transparency, and actual actions being put. That might be a future video, so let me know if you want me to discuss that more. Also, feel free to let me know if there's anything I've missed in the comments as well, as I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you for your time, and remember, that's okay to leave things, even if they're hurting you, and even if they're people that are nice to you. And just because there's one person that's nice there, doesn't mean you should force yourself to be uncomfortable. It's just Roblox. Okay, thanks.